Hello to everyone. Thank you for joining me. My name's Demortom, and welcome to Common Sense and Chaos. Okay, so this one's going to be down and dirty. I hope you guys enjoy it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go over every question that they put in the game along with some basic details. I want you to know Funcom did take the time to do this, and I was actually impressed with what they did. So stay tuned. I'm going to cut it all down, and we're going to go through it. Now, some things may be blank spaces. I want you to understand that's to give time to answer and time to give an idea of what it is they're trying to convey, because it is confusing from time to time, but we will always cut to the questions. So stick with me. Let's get to the first.
We collected your questions from our official forums and from the Reddit thread that we posted beforehand and did a call to action for you to post your questions. There was many questions, and we categorized them a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the top questions that have been asked. And the very top of that list, as you're probably very aware, Scott and Alex, is: will it be possible to travel between the Exiled Lands, the base game, and Isle of Sipta, the new expansion?
Yeah, so this is something we are working on. It is something we wanted originally for when we planned to actually launch the game. And one of the reasons why we went with early access first, since the feature was not ready yet. So it is in active development. There are coders working on it right now. It requires a lot of testing to make sure it works properly. We also need to get a lot of systems in place to make sure that no hiccups happen as far as moving one character from one location to the next and from one server to the next. So something we're working on. When we have details more ironed out, we will get it to Test Live, have it available for testing, making sure it's fine, and then release it to our players.
So, is there a way to travel between the Exiled Lands and the Isle of Sipta? It sounds like they're working on it. I guarantee this will not happen if you do not buy the DLC for Sipta. But sounds like they plan on making it somewhere available early next year. So, good news.
Are there plans to extend the map of Sipta with no biomes like we did with the Exiled Lands?
So, fairly straightforward, right? Are there plans to add more biomes to the Isle of Sipta? And the reality is, he said, it's very complicated, since the Isle of Sipta is a location as opposed to the Exiled Lands, which is a huge landform. The Isle of Sipta actually is a static location. So I'll give him the rest of the venue. But for right now, the simple answer is yes, they plan on it.
As far as land expansion and adding some new content locations, similar to what we did with the Exiled Lands.
There is new exciting stuff coming, at least. Biomes, maybe something else. What are plans for changes before Sipta is officially released? That goes a little bit into the same thing, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah, so we have 3 major updates planned. The first one is it's sort of like an economy update, is what we're calling it internally. So this includes some. You want to talk just high level?
Absolutely.
Don't go too deep.
High level, high level, Alex. Keep it high level.
The goal of this update is to smooth out the player's progression through the economy system, and to give players both vertical progression through the economy and horizontal options at specifically the end game. This will allow players to much more engage with the thralls that they collect, and have more precise control about the output of those thralls, specifically for the armors, for the different weapons.
It also, one of the things when we were testing Sipta, it is harder to get thralls in Sipta. It's something we know. It's feedback we've gotten internally, feedback we got in the beta, and so we do want to address that, but not by really changing the Sipta mechanics too much, but changing sort of the approach players and the haves and the have-nots, sort of.
So it's not as stark. It's not either feast or complete famine.
So I want to go into a little more specifics. Economy for them is basically translated to your progression, your thrall's progression, personal choices, the process by which you get resources, how you keep them, how you upgrade them, and at what time frames. That is what they're talking about when it comes to an economy progression. Keep in mind, what they're saying is they're planning on making all of these happen before the final launch for the console and finish.
And after that, we have 2 other updates planned. We cannot go into details right now, just because they're too early in development. But we plan to have several beats that lead us up to full launch, which will have the full feature set that we wanted to have when we originally started work on this.
So keep in mind, this does not mean consoles left out. It does mean consoles to the back end. But again, remember, as a business, they have to test all this stuff. They have to make sure it's perfect, and they have to submit it to Microsoft and PlayStation.
So next one, any plans to add more NPC encampments and interaction on SIPTA?
So the SIPTA experience is meant to be a different experience to the Exile lands. And we don't want to dilute that by simply adding camps that players can go to and potentially not experience the dynamic content that SIPTA provides for.
All right, so I'm going to simplify this. SIPTA is different than the Exiled Lands. It is not meant to have static camps. It is meant to have an experience by which you get thralls, and that is the experience you will have. They are testing it, however, to find a leveling type of issue so that they can make the experience more welcoming, but not equal to the Exiled Lands. You are shipwrecked. The rarity of thralls is based upon the island, not static camps. But they're looking into some mechanics, and that's what we're testing it for. And so that all 3 playstyle types are taken into account.
And we want to make sure we address this without ruining the things in SIPTA that make it unique.
Tell us about the new customization option that or features that we're working on.
Recustomization.
Yeah. So
yes.
we are going to put a game. We're going to put a way in game for people to essentially enter character creation, at least the UI again, so that you can change your head, your face, change your hair. There's certain things you won't be able to change. You won't be able to change your race. I do not believe we'll allow you to change your gender. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so.
So finally, for me personally, this is a great thing. However, Funcom, do need you to take point on a couple of items. The first is, if you do this, yes, people need to be able to change their gender. The second thing is that Funcom, we appreciate this. It's been a long time coming. Personally, I would love a waxing mod. I'm tired of seeing a small chia pet on my back as well as my chest, but hey, that's personal. And Fashionista does this for PC, but console should be allowed to do the same thing.
It's going to be a crafting bench.
Okay, a crafting bench. That's fine, Funcom, but it cannot cost anything more, because if it does, there's already a situation with how many points you can put into the things you want to do in Exiles.
With new beards, new hairstyles, new faces, and other things.
New tattoos and war paints.
Yeah.
Are there any chances that we would implement a server queue system?
So we talked about this.
I really want this, right? But again, it's in terms of priorities. So it is definitely on our radar, because if you try, like we've seen with SIPTA, our official SIPTA servers are very popular. And not having a server join queue makes joining a full server a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's something we're looking into. Yeah, it hasn't been started on development yet. We're still working on several issues with the server browser. I know lots of people have brought up the fact that pings seem to be higher. We're addressing that in the next patch a little bit by allowing a higher ping to connect, and then hopefully we'll have a solution and a hotfix either next week or sometime around there, where when you actually tried to connect, we give you a little bit more of a realistic ping than what the server browser is showing right now.
9,999.
That's a different issue actually,
Oh, is
where
it? Oh,
you actually can't ping that server for various reasons. Generally, it's due to a router combination or firewall, something like that, that's preventing it.
I remember
But
that.
we are as we find those, we are working on them. We tried to change as many as we could and do broad strokes fixes on it. So now it's a lot more individual fixes for certain setups.
So, two different things are going on here, chat. Just keep that in mind. They're looking at it. They're trying to fix it. Just FYI.
Sorcery question mark.
Sorcery. I don't know really much about
It's like
sorcery.
unicorns.
So
unicorns.
Joel promised this. I think I was in the room when he did this in San Francisco in 2017. I think at GDC. Maybe it's 2018.
No, that was way earlier. I think it was
That's like a
2016
different
or
decade.
so. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, it's a feature I want to bring. It is not going to happen for SIPDA. Sorry to ruin any people expecting that. It's not one of the features that is on the way to launch. So, yeah, we want sorcery to be amazing.
This was clear back in 2016. And yes, it was promised, Funcom. And we're thankful that you're going to take issue with it. We understand keeping in track with the lore and the world of Conan is part of the big condition. But, chat, they're not saying no. They're saying they're looking into it. It is a plan for the future.
It's something we want to do. And when I have more information, I will share it.
So to settle the elephant in the room, yes, Funcom, thank you for taking care of this. Chat, it's coming. It's on its way. However, Funcom need to understand, yes, you want it to fit within the lore, but it is a huge thing in Conan. It is one of the things that is complete with the lore. And yes, you want to make it like the lore, but making good on your promises is definitely something that the community needs to see from you.
Random wild searches are annoying with the RNG of spawn thralls. Any plans to rebalance this?
Random wild surges are annoying with the RNG of thralls. This is part of us addressing the play styles to cater for different people. The RNG will probably not be removed, but you'll be able to somehow control it a little bit better.
So it sounds like their easeability of fix here is to add a slider or a button, something along the UI settings to be able to manually control the rarity or the power of a given thrall spawn. That's not a bad option. It's a quick, easy fix.
When are we going to address issues with Xbox?
So we have a fix in testing, and hopefully we'll send it to certification soon. I assume this is in people asking about the crashes that increased when we released EPR 0.6. Yeah, so how we're going to address this first is memory optimizations. We had a lot of changes planned for that are in SIPDA right now or coming out in the next patch. Since it is not on consoles yet, unfortunately, we couldn't release those. So some of our programmers have taken those from the SIPDA builds and integrated them into the console build. So I hope to get that out very soon.
And here's where the screen goes blank. Funcom, this is specific to you. With all due respect, one of the things you prioritized in the highest was a game-breaking issues have the highest priority. However, as a community, we do not hear a specific deadline date. That is something that every company has an expectation for, from your designers to your coders to everything, that you have a specific date by which this will be fixed. Console players notoriously, as well as PC, have waited for fixes that have come in patches, that have broken other aspect, that have consistently caused problems. We as a community are begging you to give a final date. It's here, this is when we'll make it, and this is our deadline, and we will do it for the community. And I mean this with the utmost respect, Funcom. You're running a business. We completely get it. But your business is the players. And if the players are not hearing sincerity and deadline, they are going to walk away for good reason. They're not just going to walk away temporarily. They're going to consider it that you are ignoring either specific genres of the game or specific ways to play it, such as console versus PC. It should not be this way. You have to give hard-lined answers. And I'm begging you from the bottom of my heart, do this. The community has been begging for it for a very long time. This is not a minor thing.
Are there any crossplay plans
Crossplay
between PC and consoles?
PlayStation and Xbox and PC.
No,
Different platforms.
no crossplay planned, unfortunately.
So the simple answer is no. Sorry. There are no crossplay plans in the future works. He hinted that if they were to walk away from Steam, which was a possible rumor that had been going around, that maybe that might be the case, but they are not intending to have crossplay between PC and consoles.
Final launch dates.
Early next year.
So early next year is when they're planning on having out this new DLC for consoles. It sounds like a full launch of the SEPTA island area. This will be for everyone, not just PC players. It will be across the board.
On Fire is also asking, will console users be receiving any kind of new content or fixes between now and next year when the planned release is of SEPTA?
Yeah, so when we are done with the firefighting of, it's not really firefighting, when we're done with the launch work, we have some plans to try to get the SEPTA base version, so all the changes we've made, put to console. So I do not have a timetable for that yet, or time frame for it rather. But yeah, it will hopefully happen substantially before launch early next year.
This one's on a personal note. Scott, thank you for your honesty. Alex, don't be mad at Scott. He's being real with the community. Yes, you have some firefighting issues. You are looking into problems and you're trying to resolve them and stabilize the game. That's not a bad thing. Don't come down on Scott.
Any chance you could have player cancelled interruption of healing animations, even if it's limited using dodges?
So this comes down to testing. The fact is this is a new healing system, one they intended, after re-looking at all of the play styles that people have. They consider your hotbar your build. Basically, what you put on your hotbar is essentially how you're going out, you're fighting, you're playing, things along those lines. So do understand, this is something they're looking at and they're watching the gameplay. It sounds like they're taking shots of it. It is going to change, but that's based off of what they see from all three different play styles in Conan Exiles and with SEPTA.
Would you consider reducing the weight of ally potions or creating additional tiers of aloe potions that produce more effective heals?
Think about it.
So I'm just going to cut through some things here, chat, so you can hear their version.
Combination of consumables you bring is your build. We need to see the effectiveness of players' builds in actual play during PvE and PvP and whatever else to see the final number that we land on. Obviously, the numbers that we have right now are subject to change based on feedback and playtesting.
So chat, this also includes your armor, your weapons. Basically, your build is who your character is and how you go about running around these lands, whether it be SEPTA or it be the Exiled lands. I am with you. I don't like the fact that food changed as great as it did. I would like to see a tier implemented system that does not rely purely on buffs, but does create a healing aspect. I do, however, side with Funcom in the sense that I like the ability to make it more realistic. If you're in combat and you go to heal, it's not that simple. Drinking a potion is one thing, but bandaging your wounds is a totally different situation and should be an out-of-combat thing. I like it, but I know lots of you are split on it. I understand your position wholeheartedly. And Funcom, if thralls are going to be a big part of the game, not necessarily the game, you need to bring back the buffs for the healing arrows.
Food has been massively nerfed to the point of why should I bother? Actually, that goes a little bit probably into what you just said, but I'm gonna go into the question anyway. Would you consider dividing tiers of food into snacks and meals, where snacks, for example, berries, bugs, grubs, etc., could be eaten with a quick animation during combat to restore a small static amount of health, stamina, and meals would require a longer 3 to 5 second animation that quickly restores health but leaves you vulnerable?
And this is along the same lines. It goes into the idea that food should have a value. You have 40 different recipes that you have to search for. They each have different tiers available to them for resources you have to collect. There should be more than just a simple buff added to them. There should be a value for healing. But his answer, Alex's answer, was simplified. He doesn't want to go into the specifics right now. It is something they are looking at, but no guarantees. And anyone who's worried about this, you can go and look on the Funcom forums. You will find a letter that Scott wrote regarding how food is going to be calculated, how the healing system has changed. But again, they are facing what is a outdated system, and I'll let him explain that.
One of the unfortunate things is that the hunger and thirst system for a very long time was untouched and often skipped for improvement, right? So now that we have addressed the aspect of healing that was negatively impacting user experience and engagement with our content.
All right, so I have been through the forums left and right, and I have looked for where people have complained about the food system for the change that came where you could stack buffs. And I have yet to find a situation, a thread, a comment that ever addressed the healing system utilizing food as a problem. Now, maybe in Alex's mind and in Scott's mind, this was a issue that needed to be addressed in a totally separate way, but I don't recall anybody saying this was a problem. If I'm missing something, leave me a comment, let me know in the bottom, show me a thread, show me anything that you would like, but I haven't seen this. I haven't seen a negative impact from the previous healing system as of yet.
An old system that has not been updated for a while that really ought to be looked at. So for me, now that we're sort of addressing healing, we can put our attention on the food and the hunger and thirst system to make it much more engaging for players to interact with, where we will probably maintain the paradigm of in combat healing. This comes from potions. If you want out of combat healing but rapid, you use bandages. The problem is that now that we've fixed those aspects, food has lost its shine as a feature and system or set of items to the players. So we have to reinvigorate that shine in another method.
So chat, this is where your voice actually matters a lot. He's going to explain what his vision is for food and thirst. It's not a bad vision, it's just very different. But leave a comment. Go talk to Funcom, put it in their forums, leave one for me, doesn't matter. But go and express your thoughts about what's next.
And that other method is unlikely to be healing directly, much more, but it is more likely to be something along the lines that you handle on a intra-session cycle, where you handle it between your play sessions. Like if your play session is 1 or 2 hours, then you sit down, you do your cooking, you do your eating, you craft the items that you want, you prepare, then you go to adventure, and you don't have to think about food until you're back from your adventure. And that's where I think I would like to experiment with foods, hunger, and thirst specifically.
This is where your voice matters. Go to the forums, go to content creators, go to their chats, go to their threads, everything. Leave a comment, make it specific, and be polite, please. I guarantee if you go in there acting like a jerk, like you deserve something as opposed to you're asking for help, they will not hear you. Keep your comments polite. Constructive criticism is good. Just being an ass is not.
One is here, could we get the soothing buff back as an aura from fireplaces, just to make home feel like home?
We'll think about it.
Do we have any plans on further balancing the healing system that was put in place with this update?
We have plans to further balance the whole game.
So this balancing act is about the entirety. It's not about just one specific aspect. Although the healing system, food system, drinking system, all is a big part of what his vision or the company's vision entails.
Is the game going to be on PS5?
In some form, yeah. So probably with backwards compatibility.
A lot of little pauses here, chat, just so we can get through the question as clearly as possible. He takes a lot of word whisker moments.
Is it going to be upgraded for PS5?
Probably not. It's something we'll consider, just depending on how things are going when the actual consoles come out. First, we're focused on getting SIPTA working on consoles. After that, then we will consider what we do with things.
I realize you have a new console, you want new content and new graphics, but can we get a stable game before that happens? I mean, that is the goal, right? Stable before design.
Spawns in Exiled Lands are static, which leads to stale PvE gameplay. Plans to address this in Exiled Lands or SIPTA?
Right now, the attention is on SIPTA, and the Exile Lands as a map is being looked after, but not actively developed, at least for the next couple of weeks.
Pretty simple. They're looking at both games as a whole.
What are we going to do for Wild Surge spawn blocking?
I'm glad to see this got addressed. It can become an actual problem. For those of us who play SIPTA, we know the realities of this potential.
This is something we're aware that happens. There are a lot of spawn points for the wild surges, but it is possible, especially on PvE and PvEC servers, to build the Great Wall around them. And
so griefers are going to happen, chat. Funcom is on board with understanding this, and I'm sure they're going to come up with some version of a provision to keep this from happening. This is another one of those questions. I'm glad it got out early. It's something that they can address, and we'll let him address what that means or what that entails.
We don't want people to build rings around content. We are going to address this. Hopefully we can get a great solution sometime next week.
So Funcom's on board, chat. They don't want griefers either, and they don't want their people griefed the entire time they play. At least they're addressing that issue up front.
Why is the Isle of SIPTA DLC ownership required, or can we join friends who own it?
You must own the DLC in order to play it.
All right, so what I'm about to say is controversial to some of you guys. Funcom is a business at the end of the day. Chat, you need to really stop and look at this. If your argument is, I got a crappy product, though you have a legitimate complaint, there are ways to handle that. Asking Funcom to let you exploit based off of somebody else is not okay. This would be the same as you sending your friend to the movies to record a movie illegally and then saying, you're not happy with the movie, you should go get your money back. It doesn't work that way. You either support that industry or you don't. The money that they raise based off of DLCs is used for twofold. It's used to fix content that is messed up, although their ideal premise is not to have it messed up, and to develop new content for future use. If you want your money back, absolutely understand. Go to the people who provide the server, tell them you're not happy. Most of the time they will work with you on that. But asking Funcom is like asking J.J. Abrams to replace the money for a shitty Transformers. It's not okay.
Will Funcom release any new Chrome weapons or features for the Isle of SIPTA or in general?
Somebody really likes Crom. This is from Crom's.
Chrome's faithful.
Yes.
He likes
They
it.
have their priorities right.
Yes, we're thinking about it.
Yes, of course, they're going to continue to come up with new content and new things along those lines. Be prepared. You will likely have to pay for it. I do not see Funcom in the future giving anything away for free. Though I think it would be nice of them for something small, like placeables.
Will there be a server vibe at the end of early access?
No.
Thank you, Funcom. We all appreciate that. Just know, we will hold you to that. No doubt. Every statement from here on out.
Chat.
There will be no server
There
vibes
will
at the end
be
of our-
no server vibes.
Okay, so a lot of this in-between content is asking about mob spawns. They're asking about thrall spawns. It's basically rehashing the same thing. They are currently working on balancing the entirety of the game. They will look at how players play, what they come up against, how often, things like that. This is not only for Conan Exiles, this is also for the Lands of SIPTA. Again, I'll leave the link down in the description so you can go back to this video if you want to. It's about an hour-long session where they're having these questions asked and answered. But moreover, chat, asking the same question in a different form is not asking a new question. If the idea is this is a test design through SIPTA to better the gameplay as a whole, then they're going to look at not just SIPTA, they're going to see how it's played, they're going to look at the exiled lands. And this is consistent with what their motto has been. What we do in one, we will look at the other and do in the other. Consistency across both independent games.
What stopped us from upping server population caps with Isle of Sipta?
We wanted to make sure it ran fine with 40 people. So one thing we did actually, I don't know if many people noticed this, but we changed the hard limit in. But we removed the 70 hard cap, so you can actually have a server with up to 200 people now, I think.
So
You probably have to host it yourself, since I don't know if the service provider will have something there, but you can go in and manually change it. I would not recommend going above 70, but if you want to be adventurous, you can.
So whenever an expert is telling you something, listen to subtext. He is saying that they up the potentials for the server to have more than 40 people on a given server. However, he does not recommend going above 40. That's the subtext. Your server, you want to break your game, potentially, you want to take the risk, it's on you. They're not backing it. Just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should. So play at your own risk. They're not going to help you if you screw up your own servers.
Are there plans on improving the user interface, especially for consoles?
Yes, I want to do that. As a console player myself, one of my biggest pet peeves is just when you go and you craft, and if you own all the DLCs, it's a lot of stuff to sift through, and you can't sort. So it's something we're looking into. I actually wanted to do something before Architects of Argos came out, but we ran out of time. So we will look into it. It's not a trivial problem to fix, though.
Some of it will be addressed by the economy update because we're shifting things a wee bit around. There's going to be a couple more stations here, a couple more stations there. Allows players a little bit more easy time of interacting with all the recipes in the game.
So I left this in for consoles. They realized the problem. And thank goodness one of them is a console player. I'm very thankful that they're taking issue with this as a console player myself as well. It is monotonous. It should have a simple filter. It shouldn't be this long in the wait. But as I said, this is not an easy fix. It sounds like they have plans for utilizing benches to make life a little easier. Maybe that means a building bench? I don't know.
Because that has been a little bit of a pressure point for a while that we know about as well, that it's really hard to just find recipes and sift through the millions of things you have, especially with the DLCs on top of everything. It's kind of a good problem to have, though, because it just means you have so many cool items in the game as well.
Okay, so I'm going to try not to rant from a console player's position. And I'm going to try to make this as constructive as possible. Natasha, you are fantastic as an engagement director. It is wonderful that you point back to the fact that you have a lot of content as Funcom. You've provided a lot to the Conan Exiles world. Thank you very much for that. However, having said that, I will hope that you will hear me fully and completely. Even in an uncomfortable laugh, it shows an uncaring base for people to understand. Console players already feel left behind. Even Alex himself has said this is an issue for him. Unfortunately, they ran out of time. Now you are in a position where your player base is not just demanding this, they are harsh about it. And you need to accommodate that need by giving a complete date, deadline when you plan on fixing this. If not in the next patch, the following. If not the following, a hard date so that they can understand. Because it's not fair to tell someone, we'll get to your fix eventually. It's really not. These are players. They deserve no different than when it comes to PC, and they deserve no more or less love than either. I know you say that, but Funcom as a whole, you're not showing that.
With the launch of Sifta, do you consider the exiled lands to be content complete?
No.
Exiles, people, they're not giving up on you. It's not going away. You're still going to get content.
We will focus most of our development going forwards on expanding the toolbox instead of just making content specifically for one map over another map.
So right now, as it stands, whether you bought SIPTA or not, or you intend to or not, they are looking at both games as a whole, and what they're focusing on is that toolbox, the ability to interface, use, how healing is done in the game, how you play the game, all of that. That is what they're focused on. So not just one side or the other, but both as a whole. That's a good thing.
Are we going to add more admin features like Pippi does?
It does some stuff that we wouldn't be able to do in the base game specifically. What I would say is if you would like the admin commands that Pippi has, you should use Pippi.
Okay, so I had to get up and take about 20 minutes to figure out how I was going to address this to everybody. The elephant in the room. How is it that console players do not have the same quality of life that PC players do? And is it something that should be implemented? And the short answer is yes. But the long answer is a little more invasive. Console players, I want you to understand, we answer to the masters. That would be Microsoft and Sony, who will not back a product that has any potential point of exploiting or flaws. And Funcom has already stated that they will not accept additional modding to those systems because of what is asked by those masters. PC players answer to the creators. They are the people that design things like Pippi, items like that, Josef's mod UI, items as such. And as a result, Funcom does not have to put in anything to assure that game. Whereas with consoles, if the masters are going to get refund requests because of something broken or not right, or not up to par, they are on the hook for it. And Funcom does not want to be on the hook for it. They're not wrong in doing this. This is part of business. But Funcom, this is your part, asking for a better UI system for integration is not out of line. I'm sure you can figure out something that does not violate a copyright that gives people the same quality of life as consoles deserve it. And they do.
Will we be able to color or dye our horse and rhino saddles in the near future?
I will have to see why that can be
Not
done. It's
sure.
probably a technical requirement that it can't be done right now. I have to double check. Maybe if we can make it happen technically.
This would be nice of you, Funcom. If you could follow this up and actually make it happen, be nice.
Any chance to add random boss spawns to make the game more challenging and unpredictable?
Yeah, I mean we can look into things like that.
We'll have a look to make things a little bit more dynamic. Yes, this is one of the learnings from SIP that is a nice improvement that can happen for the Exile lines, where some of the spawns can be more randomized, so the players are not always fully aware of which boss spawns at which XYZ coordinate.
Any chances to add more idle animations for NPCs and thralls?
Idle animations.
Yes, Scott. Idle animations. This is something that not only PC players, but also console players have asked for. And though, yes, this is something that PC does have mods for, which he did speak to, it is something about the quality of life that is being asked by those in consoles as well. They'd like to be able to put their thrall in a chair, or drink a beer, or sit on the side, or pretend to barter. Any one of those things would be nice. Even having a cook animation standing next to a bazaar would be wonderful.
The thrall system and being able to interact with it's one of the really unique parts about Exiles. So yeah, it's something we can look into.
Thank you so much.
Any chance to improve AI in general?
Yes.
Please do, Funcom. People are tired of watching their thralls and pets get hung up every time they ask him to do something in the exiled lands.
Any chance to be able to use vanity gear without mods? Additional character development slots, like for example, like things that you can put in there, or like, transmogrify your weapon so it looks different.
They're asking if you can break the stat from the visuals of
We
the
should
item.
probably do that at some point. I don't know if
should.
we have time to do it now, but we'd like in the future definitely consider it.
Yeah, so it would require a pretty big change, I believe, to how we
Yes.
do items right
Yes.
now. So it's
not
not a
trivial.
simple change. It's something we've spoken about in the past, but it's not something we can commit to right now.
More like, can you cover, like for example, you're having metal armor and you have an additional slot and you can add leather armor there, and it would take over the actual texture.
That sounds complicated, especially if it changes the model. Polygons will break, maybe. I don't know. We'd have to look into it.
So again, this is console mostly, but PC who doesn't want the specific mods or anything like that. It sounds like it's something they can look into, but they are afraid this could cause bigger issues and break the model. And for that, they're going to test it. At least they're saying that.
Will there be more animations added to the game for item usage?
Baby steps, friends. Baby steps.
So quickly, we're just going to glaze over this one. They were asking about additional emotes and items interaction that you can do, such as knocking on doors, petting your animals, stuff like that. And their simple answer to that is they would like to have it, but it's not something that they're prioritizing.
One of the things that I would like is to at some point look at is the storage in Exiles. It's a little bit on the boring side, where we haven't paid enough attention to that part of the economy, where we don't quantify the value of people's storage well enough. And this is where we would sort of look into this kind of problem, where we'd have an extension to what the players currently do now, and a little bit more thinking, planning, and preparation to how people build their bases. So if we do something like this will have to come later, but it'll be like as part of a whole package where players, we touch many more aspects than just adding 1 or 2 boxes.
So not to take away from Scott here, just to simplify it, along with the storage system is also placeables that people want. So if they're going to release it, they're going to release it in a giant package, not just 1 or 2 items or specific items, more like all across the board, and they would do it in a much larger way.
Do we consider allowing more than 1 active companion at the same time?
It just needs to be wrapped in a bigger feature.
So this is one of those that's going to be wrapped into one of those bigger features. It doesn't mean it's coming immediate, but it wouldn't surprise me if Funcom's really putting this on the priority list. And if you're not Funcom, it would be nice. If you could make it sooner rather than later, we would all be much appreciative. And personally, I would like my horse to social distance. Drives me nuts when I'm mining rocks and the thing hits me in the back.
Armor for pets when? Wait, what?
Armor for pets when they can figure out how to adjust armor to an existing model skin and then send us their content files. That's when.
I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Alex is a little frustrated by this question, and rightfully so. It's been asked since even animals were thought of, let alone mounts. Somebody help Funcom. And if not, Funcom, I realize this is a larger development than fitting saddles onto an animal, but if you have the models and you can fit them as saddles, yeah, take some more time. People would really enjoy this.
Will there ever be a visual update to the exiled lands to bring it up to par with Sipta?
One of the reasons SIPTA looks good is we have volumetric fog and lighting working. We're probably not going to do that on Exile plans, though. I think it would be too much work. That won't happen.
We basically have to go back through all of Exile lands and fix all the lights to be able to handle volumetric fog and lighting, which means things like torches and whatever else. It turns into very, very, very big commitment.
So chat, you heard it. They would have to fundamentally go back to the beginning and redo everything. That's a huge commitment. The likelihood of them equaling SIPTA? Not likely.
Will we ever add an option to totally turn off combat music?
So this is where Scott had me busting up. Why would you want to turn off our great music? You're right, Scott. You made great combat music, and it is fantastic. But the one hotfix that you did where it went repetitively, not to mention the fact that most of us have played this game for at least a year, if not more, we don't want to hear it. And having a simple slider or toggle would be awesome. If you're going to do UI fixes and you're going to go into the settings fixes, make this available. It may not seem like much to you or a reason, but for some of us, this is actually really helpful. Shutting it off means something to us.
Will you consider offering up a new tool like mod conflict detector?
Oh, hey. No.
Oh.
So we are well aware that there was some mod compatibility issues with SIPTA. I did not think it would be as bad as it was, where it was actually crashing beforehand and causing an error message that was not at all
Not
descriptive
human
of what
readable
was
at
right.
all.
It said you need to basically reinstall, where actually all you needed to do was disable your mod list. We are working on some improvements for the mod system right now.
So will you guys decrease the brightness of the underwater stuff in the twice drowned world? We're actually aware of kind
Yes.
of graphics bug.
Yeah, I think we need to regenerate logs on an asset.
Well, I'm glad I was wrong about this being intentional. Thank you very much for fixing it, Funcom. Players and viewers alike are being struck blind. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Any plans to rework archery during SIPTA early access?
There are things in the combat system that annoy me to no end, and I'd love to make them better. Healing was one of them. I'm sort of. I don't think PC players can imagine what it must feel like for a console player to try to play the old version of the healing system.
Actually, lots of us can. Alex, we do know what it feels like.
We'll be looking at different aspects of combat in the near future to make better.
Not exactly the most finite of answers, but a good answer nonetheless. Thank you, Alex.
Funcom, is it known that what is causing some Vault cutscenes to become blue washed?
Yes, actually, there are two that I've found inside SIPTA so far. I know Kaya on Fire also brought up one that she found. Not sure if it's the same one, but you guys can always go to her and find out. Other than that, yes, we are having a problem where it's either blue washed or completely blanked out. So just take a look, Funcom, especially at those moments in the cutscenes inside the dungeons.
Well, we'll look into it, but that's the first time I've actually heard about that.
So I'm going to cut this right here. I'm just going to give a brief explanation. This portion of the Q&A is where Alex and Scott are quite literally explaining the process by which content and information and fixes go forward to Sony and Microsoft. It's important. If you don't believe what I've told you and you need to hear it from the horse's mouth, they can tell you. Alex, I will say, I understand your frustration. Yes, it would be a whole lot easier, but again, conveying that frustration only conveys to console players that they're not cared or loved. I know you say it, but again, things like this are what make them wonder if you're telling the truth. With a past track record that does not show a full care value to them, they feel that way. And a few PC players who have played other games that you came up with and had abandoned in the past are on board with that. That's the reason you're getting shouted at. So definitely show your patronage, love, understanding, and tell them, I'm frustrated by the situation, but we deal with it. We deal with it for you.
About reporting players and in general customer support, maybe you can answer that question, Scott?
Yeah, so we are expanding our community support team and adding a customer support team.
All I can say is it's about time. This realm of infractions, griefing, etc. has to come to an end, and I am thankful you are taking a big issue with this.
Looking at infractions a little bit more than we are right now.
Wheels are turning.
We are it's in progress right now.
Okay, so the last of this is just about clans being able to link together, and the big possibility Alex was clear about exploiting that action, that you have these huge clans on these small maps with limited people, and it just becomes we were here first, you don't need to be there. I can really see that being a rational reason not to allow clans to act in accords with one another on a server. It's real simple, guys. Keep your rules the same for you as they are for the other clan. If you say, hey, we're going to be together on this, then by all means be together. But making it so it's an overlord premise is why they're saying they're going to increase reporting and why they're going to decrease griefing. The fact is, be nice out there. You may be on a PvP server, but if you're not abiding by the rules and you're stretching those limitations and you're griefing people and you are therein by trying to alpha clan your way to holding everybody as slaves under you, including other players, you've gone too far. The game is not about that. The game is about everybody being able to have fun. And having a fun PvP experience may mean fighting a larger clan, but it does not mean a larger clan or even a smaller clan griefing someone else. Don't figure you're going to be able to exploit. They are looking into this. They are planning on watching their specific servers, it sounds like, and they may accredit that to going across other servers. So you lords out there who enjoy kicking people out simply for the sheer pleasure of doing so, or raiding their base, again, simply for the sheer pleasure of doing so, you griefers out there, you people who live off of the misery of others, this is not what PvP was about. PvP is not about increasing the grief of someone else so you can find pleasure. That's Schadenfreude. Go look it up. You want that stuff? Go play Eve. You want that stuff? Go play another game. But don't go doing it here in Conan Exiles, because now they're looking at it. The other portion of this was just re-answered questions. I'm not going to go through it. I thank you guys very much. If you have any comments whatsoever, good, bad, indifferent, or somewhere in the middle, or you need information going to Funcom, I'm sending stuff through threads. I'm sending stuff through forums. Go see their Reddit. Go post on it. Go make questions, and go get some answers. And the next time they do this, we'll break it down again. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember, people will tell you what to think. Friends ask you what you think. So what do you think? Leave a comment down below, and while you're there, hit that like and subscribe button. Stay safe and take care.